Hi everyone, it's Eileen Burns from Spiritual Marketing Club and Stress Coach Training. So today I'm going to talk about, are you sharing your magic, or are you hiding your magic in a bottle, or maybe you don't even really recognize what your magic is. Maybe you are and you're afraid of, those gifts, those powers that you have. So as someone that has been the client, the customer, and also the coach, healer, or therapist for, well, I started exploring many different of healing modalities well over 30 years ago. And I started on my own journey as studying as a healer over 30 years ago as well. And one of the interesting things that I became aware of was that many people got stuck by identifying themselves and their skills with the modalities and the tools that they used. And they didn't always recognize where their area of expertise was and their natural gifts, and often in their purpose. And for example, for most of us that are healers and therapists and that we're very guided towards that way, we tend to study a lot of things, and in many ways often we actually sacrifice a lot. And what I mean by that is we tend to spend a lot of time and invest a lot of our hard-earned cash or whatever, our time, on learning different disciplines. It becomes a priority in our life. And, the more that you're into, you're drawn in a spiritual way, it becomes very important to you. And in one aspect, that's really good, because what happens is you can gain a wider perspective. You have different tools in your toolbox, and some we do and then maybe we don't really use. Some we use a lot, but we see things from a different perspective. But when we invest a lot of time and energy in these tools, sometimes we cling on to the tools and we identify ourselves. And what I mean is really over-identify with the titles that come with that, and we can get lost. And what do I mean by that? Well, obviously, categories and titles play a part in the world that we're living in to describe what we do. And sometimes it describes the level of qualification or time that you've done, or the level you've achieved, right? But what I saw in my own journey and meeting and working with a lot of coaches, healers, and therapists in many different ways, so I'll explain. I, as someone who's had very rare and chronic medical challenges for a baby, I invested highly, a large of my income in the holistic, in the spiritual sector, in people, and I highly invested in my own education. Because my life was, nobody's, I suppose, got a normal life, but my life was in many ways restricted by a lot of the challenges that I had. So holistic well-being and spirituality became not just part of my work and my passion, but it became in some ways my life. And I know that maybe not sound balanced, but in my circumstances, it was very beneficial, and the drive and the passion that I've had has always been incredible in that area. But one of the things that I noticed in my own life, and with a lot of people that I help, because one of the things that I'd get asked to help, other than, I started my own stress management school, and I'd done lots of other things, but I was always asked to help people with their business or their marketing or their website. And people would get stuck in the titles they were given and lose themselves and lose actually what the core of them was. And to me, your purpose is, it's not always the tools and techniques, and in many ways it's not the tools and techniques. They can help you achieve what you're here to achieve, but they're just tools and techniques. And I always say that, you know, in many ways there's always more tools and techniques coming out, and some are more advanced, some are more simple, some achieve things that years ago it might take, you know, quite a long time to achieve. You know, there's things coming out all the time, and even the way the energy is coming through and downloads are coming through, it's a lot quicker. So sometimes the tools and techniques that we used to use in some way can be null and void. Some always stay, but there are some can be null and void for a variety of reasons. So you are always you. And I believe that many people come in with innate gifts, and then there's other gifts, and their innate gifts, if it's nurtured, takes their gifts to a whole new level. And then obviously if you have tools and techniques, then you combine that, and then you've got magic. So I want to ask you, are you sharing your magic, or are you getting engulfed and over attached to the tool or techniques that you're using? Are you getting lost? Are you losing yourself? Are you losing your innate gifts? Because one of the things in marketing is that, first of all, you're selling a solution, but particularly in the holistic and spiritual sector, you're aiming your products and services at those who are most aligned with your offerings, and not just the actual offerings, but the way that you offer it, and you, right? So I want to ask you, are you sharing your magic, or are you, maybe you don't even recognize, and I talk about your soul gifts, maybe you don't even really recognize what your greatest gifts are. Maybe you're fearful, maybe you do, but it scares you, or maybe you're fearful of coming out and owning those gifts. Or maybe you're somewhere in between. You have a rough idea, but you've really not narrowed it down. So one of the things that I help clients with is helping them with their marketing, their business, but I go back to basics, and I go back to their purpose. Because if you try and build a business when someone doesn't really know their secret sauce, and what I mean is their gifts, their unique innate gifts, you're going to struggle. There's going to be things are going to be harder for you. But when you are totally owning what you are here to do, right, no matter what happens, if new techniques come out, new things come out, if you know your power, and you know what is you are uniquely here to do, and how you maybe do it differently from everyone else, there's ways you can adapt and move forward in your business far easier. And you're building your business on a strong foundation, because you're building it on something that is innately there. Something is innate, it's like constant, right? But lots of things in business change, right? Lots of things in society change, even clients change, okay? So I want to ask you, are you really sharing your magic, or are you hiding it in this bottle? Are you hiding it even somewhere under a bushel? Are you hiding it from yourself? Maybe you can't even see it. Now, I run a coaching program called Soul Purpose. Well, it'll be now Soul Purpose to Soul Client, because we extended it. Okay, it used to be Soul Purpose to Soul Client Magnet, where you would identify your soul purpose and then create a lead magnet for that. I've decided to extend it a bit more, because one of the things that I realized was I always go so deep and give my clients so much that it always seems to run out of time, because I could go more and more and more. And I believe in going so deep, because if you are totally a soul aligned business and you really want to step up, it's about getting so deep, and it's about approaching your work and approaching your day from a more soul aligned perspective. And that's about less ego and more soul, and being more deeply connected. Now, because of my own journey, I was always fascinated by many techniques, and there's a few techniques that I've combined in my own way because I found it more effective and worked better. And for a variety of reasons, obviously, sometimes you can't just take other people's techniques and just run, even when you've bought them. There's certain things that you've got to do. And I discovered ways, for example, to access my connection, right? I'm someone who's always been very intuitive and in some ways just knew things. But then when I tried, there were some times when I would try to get certain things, the information wouldn't come because I was trying so hard. But one of the things that I've studied for 30 years is meditation. And I come across a lot of tools that helped access things far more quicker, very simple. You don't have to do any weird or obscure movements, which is good for me because I have had neurological challenges and sensory processing challenges for a variety of reasons. I think it's to do with the mercury poisoning that I had and after I had sepsis. And what I find is like awkward things like strange movements and sometimes things like tapping are not effective for me. They actually can cause some challenges just because the way that my brain processes things and because of my sensory system. So I've always looking for tools that are really simple that someone can connect to, but connect in a deeper way. And I was always felt when I'd done a lot of channeling courses and I'd done Akashic records and I'd done lots of things and worked with many people, but often I felt that they weren't connecting completely to source. And what do I mean by source? Because in the spiritual community and the light community, that can mean lots and lots of things. Well, I mean God in its light form, in its highest form, in the highest realms. And often when I was working with clients, even some of the guides that would come through felt for me as if they were on the lower realms. They were not in the highest, they were not coming from the highest realm. And it felt as if the person was keeping themselves stuck in the lower realms rather than trying to connect. And I remember asking one of my teachers who were teaching channeling, and I said, why do we not go straight to the top? Why do we, we go? And he kind of looked at me and he says, you can all answer that one. He says, I can't answer that one. So I'm all for trying to get to the highest realms, okay? And like everything, it can take time sometimes when you learn tools. But I have decided to share some tools that I invested greatly in. It cost me a lot of money, and it was a lot of money to me. It wasn't just a lot of money, a lot of money to me in my circumstances. But I believe at this point, we're in a point in society where a lot of things are crumbling and many people are so distracted by fear and also so many things that they're being manipulated that they can't see the wood from the trees. They're struggling to have their inner connection. They're struggling to, they're finding themselves constantly more in the ego, and we all find ourselves in that place. But what I mean is they're finding it hard to make business decisions. They are struggling to get their intuition correct. They may be beating themselves up because they have made decisions now that they regret and they're struggling with that. Or they may not want to look, they want to hide their head in the sand. But the reality is that if you're a light worker, you're here to step up and you're here to build a strong, a spiritual and soul connection. And I'll explain what I mean by that, to help you on a daily basis be more intuitive and make better, healthier decisions for yourself, your family, and for humanity, and be part of, this opportunity to create change and to be part of that, right? And we're seeing things accelerate in very strange ways, which appear to be very chaotic, right? And when there's chaos and confusion, when there's chaos, it causes confusion. And with confusion causes fear. But often all of that, there's the darkness. It's the darkness trying to take hold of, I suppose, the perspective, right? And the reality is light workers are there to bring in the light. And part of being a light worker is not being too afraid to look at the dark, and not being too, not to get stuck in denial, not to, just look at everything from a positive mindset and deny. So it's all about denial and not facing things. As light workers, there's putting out, of course, you have to put out there and create the world that you want to create. But if you keep denying what is present and what's showing up, just like if you're trying to suppress any trauma or discomfort that is associated with your gifts, well, guess what? It's going to cause you problems. Because I'm seeing so much of this, and I'll be honest, I've been a wee bit surprised at how much I've seen, how much spiritual disconnection, but I do also understand, and I suppose maybe it was naivety in my part. But because of that, I have decided to run a 7-day soul deep connection course. It's like a connection to really connect to your soul in a deep way, right? Because I think it's something that's really needed. And this course, once it's done live, will also be available for someone, to do it themselves. But I have decided to run this and give it a really, really low price, considering what I'm going to give people. This is for people that are really, really serious, and people who are committed to taking their connection, their spiritual connection and their soul connection. What do I mean by that? I mean, deep in at the core of you, that you get to a situation that there's such a strong connection that you just know things. And almost, so for me, there's things happen physically. It's hard to explain, but things can shoot through me, and it's so strong. There's instantly about certain things. Now, other times things come through more subtle, with ways you just know. But for me, it's about a soul connection, and that soul connection connecting up as far as possible to the 12th realms, right? Because if you are connecting in with other guides that are not, most guides are not sitting in lower realms, other things come in, you can be easily manipulated. Other things come through, information that comes through that's not pure. Now, so the more that we all build up a connection internally and a connection to that realm, but also I'm going to show you a tool to be able to, in different ways, how you use this tool, how to access the 0 point. And that is like a quick, it's like almost like an accelerated way of getting to deep stillness, right? That many yogis take 20, 30, 40 years to achieve in meditation or yoga, right? It's like when you achieve, it's like the 0 point where everything, you have the potential to create things, you have potential to heal things, and you've also got that, it's like almost a pure element of being able to connect at a deeper level without the ego and the head and all your limitations or what you think you should, you must do. You've got, when you can access that, you've got a more crystal clear clarity of what wants to come through from the soul rather than ego. So I'm running this course from Saturday, the 26th, and each morning there will be some lives and some just videos or tasks for you to do, right? I do plan to do most of them about 9:30, but I do have a couple of things that are running between that, so there might be slightly time changes, but each thing you will get something in the morning that will take you to the next step. And it's about, each day I'll pop in live anyway, there'll be a separate group for it. But what I want to do is help you really get soul deep. So on the Saturday the 26th, it will be an hour session where I'm going to teach you a way to really start getting deeper connection with yourself, with the 0 point, and we move on to building that soul connection so that you get a stronger inner guidance, right? And when you start to build stronger inner guidance with you and your connection, not just guides, right? So what do you mean? I mean, I know some things come through, but what I mean is that when you have a crystal clear connection and you're coming from pure intent and you can achieve deeper zones of stillness, right? You are not, there's no room, there's less room for the ego, there's less room for all those things that can sabotage, and there's less room for confusion of what the message actually is, right? So if this is something you're interested in, as I said, some of these tools cost me a lot of money, and it was a big investment for me. So please do not understand when I say that I spend a lot of money. These are, I make a lot of commitment, and it's a big chunk of my income that I spend on these things. But for those of you who really do want to take your spirituality and connection to a new level, I am happy to support you if you want to make that commitment and you want to take, because when you can connect in a deeper way, your magic naturally starts to come out and it starts to become more obvious, right? Because you're being you and you're being guided exactly what you are supposed to be doing. It's not the ego that's running the show, right? And what happens, that bottle, the lid comes off naturally and things just start magically coming out, and you magically start sharing what you are here to do, because it's an innate part of you. When you have to try in your business, when you have to make things happen all the time, and what I mean from an ego, and you have to try, and you think, oh, I'm struggling with contact, I'm struggling to do this, I don't know what to do. That's not your magic. That's you trying to make something fit, right? And it becomes so much easier when you've got a strong connection, because there's more trust, right? You have a strong connection within, and you have a strong connection to heaven and earth. Okay, so if you're interested in this, I will be sharing some information below the window below the video. You'll get used to me saying the opposite sometimes, or the wrong words. That's just something that I do, and I have just to laugh about it. But I would love you to see you on the 7 days of Soul Deep Connection, and it's £77, and you'll get 7 days worth of content with that. And as I said, these are some of the tools. Some of the tools are like bits from tools and techniques that I've learned, and I've put them together in a way that works for me, and I believe makes it more simple for clients. And it's a lot of, in many ways, some of the tools and techniques are from a lot of different strategies, but they're brought in a way that's simple and gets to the point. And it's all about, it's about getting the job done and making it so that it's not, as I said, I'm not into the awkward movements of the tapping. It's just, these are great for certain people just to do with me, but this is a wee bit different because it's getting into the soul. And also, these tools also are actually very useful for self-healing as well, and even they're useful for manifesting. So looking forward to sharing with you. It will not be at this price again, but I would love for you to join me, and if you're interested, you can see on the link below. Okay, so I want you sharing your magic. I want you stepping up, because we need more magic, and we need more pureness, and we need people to start really awakening, okay, so that they can, because awakening is a very, very loose word that's used at the moment, but there's different levels to awaken, and part of that is awakening your magic, but also having the strength and the courage to look at things straight on and saying, right, okay, I'm stepping up, I'm taking my power back, and I'm moving forward with all the other light workers, in many ways light warriors, that are stepping up right now. Okay, bye for now.